This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, I asked Joey about hybrid work.
Woo! And you say, I only talk like a Joey because that's what I do. But it's also not true. Sometimes with Emerson, I have to do, oh, hello, this is Margaret. And this is what an executive producer and school teacher, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess.
I was trying to find a word. I don't know why I went into school teacher, because Margaret is a school teacher character that I play. But I was trying to find a word and I was like, school marm. Nope, that's not it. That is not a nice term.
That's mean.
Yeah. Jessica.
You know what's funny? Marm as sort of like a twisting of ma'am.
Is that where it comes from? Variant
So.
spelling of ma'am. Yeah, that's what it is. All right.
That
Well,
funny, Mom.
Jessica, what do you want to talk to today?
What do I want to talk to?
Do a talking.
Let's do a talking. I was thinking about how maybe a little less than 5 years ago, we had some musings about working from home. And now with all of our new norms around, coming into work a few days a week, and a lot of companies having, like a Tuesday through Thursday type policy, like we do, about, the office sort of being open, or, most like people centric, whatever. Words are so hard. Basically, people coming into the office sometimes. But it's just a weird thing that after all this time, hybrid still kind of is terrible. There are great things about being in person, but there are also practical limitations. Like, our office space is designed to have so much flux between days of barely anyone and then way too many people. But also working from home has its own limitations. And then having meetings and moments where you're trying to collaborate, where some people are in person and some people are home, and that is also still lacking any amount of infrastructure to really facilitate that successfully. Like, Zoom was probably the last meaningful innovation on that front, and still has not a ton, to my knowledge, has really happened since then to make that kind of, to sort of span that challenge. Like, still, I think most of the virtual meeting tools work best when everybody is virtually meeting. And so, I don't know. Maybe it's the end of the yearness. I don't know what it is. But in my reflecting, I guess the thing I want to talk to is, why haven't we figured out hybrid yet?
Very talking, much words.
Took a long time, but we got there. Alex, cut all of it. Just the end.
Yeah, I don't know. First of all, when you said 5 years, I was like, oh, it hasn't been 5 years. Correction support. Fuck, it has been 5 years.
Oh, no.
Like, we've been living in, like, COVID, post-COVID, whatever world for, like, coming on, like, 3 months from 5 years. That's crazy. Man, that, like, threw me a little bit.
You're like, I am actually shook now.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Is like, what's interesting is, in my own head, I am still in the idea of like, oh, this is such an active need, and we are still grappling with this question, when actually, like, has it become, have we sort of like slowed on the roll of pressure and urgency to solve this problem? Because it's like, well, at least there's a virtual centric tool, and you could just go in person, and those two things are fine. And it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about this idea I mean, there's probably been, there definitively have been a lot of like micro advancements that have happened over that 5 years in terms of making it a little bit easier to work either remotely or hybrid or whatever. But I also sort of instinctually, like my gut reaction is like, you're right. There haven't been these dramatic shifts. And some of this, oh, go ahead.
Or like, I guess maybe there have been, but we've just settled into the comfort zone of them. Like hybrid in terms of the like over the week, the thing we've settled into is the Tuesday through Thursday, I guess. Or like we're a fully remote company and those are kind of like the options that exist now. Or you have to be in person. Like people have just like taken, it's like those are the three choices that you have in the most generalized sense. And then in the in a moment sense, it's like, oh, some people are just going to join virtually and we're just going to accept that a meeting will be weirdly half in person at best. And there will be some people on a call because they won't be able to make it or something. Right. And so it's sort of like we've settled into these the acceptance that those are the options rather than I feel like the sort of urgency that there was to like try to come up with a solution. It's like maybe we've just gotten comfortable.
Well, I mean, some of it is, so there's a few things, right? Increasingly, it seems like the data is pointing to hybrid naturally, right? Like this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, this porridge is just right. Like you have a group of people who are like, you should come into the office every day, and a group of people saying, I'll never go into an office ever again in my life. And like the actual combination of, or like the negotiated middle ground seems in the data to also be the best where everyone is happy. The issue is the cost structure of running a company. If you have to have an office at all, it like doesn't change if you're using the office fewer days a week or something, right? Like unless you're saying like you line it up like we'll use this office for 2.5 days a week and you use the office different company for the other 2.5 days, and that'll be great. This is my desk and my mirror at the other company's desk, and we share it, and like that makes sense. You can reduce the cost. Otherwise, the benefits of office seem and being in person at like some reduced rate makes people happier for not having to commute and allows you to get cohesion within your team and perform certain functions in person, right? But like you still have to pay for it. So now any additional solution that makes hybrid better is an added cost. It's not right. Like in my mind, I was like, yeah, like there seemed to be things pointing towards prior to the pandemic, like digital whiteboarding and things like that. And like solution Fig Jam or other sort of these like collaborative tools that exist within Figma or Mural or Miro or whatever are available to be able to work collaboratively. But it also means like everyone then maybe you need to buy all of your employees a tablet and a stylus and all of these things. And that's just like added costs, right?
Right. Because now you're trying to optimize for 3 different working layers. Like it's not just in person. You also need to optimize for remote only. And then you also, and this is why in my mind, it's like, it's the last one on the list is the optimizing for the both. It's like, well, first order of priority is like, given the reality of remote, then we should, if nothing else, have some capability to make the remote side of things a bit better. But never so far as to figure out really the sort of next echelon of both.
Yeah. And then if you're geographically distributed, right, even if you're in person, you may have a person on your team who is not in your location, which
your
puts
time
you
zone.
in like a further in between state where like you could get some of the in-person benefit with your team, but now you have an additional person who is, it's as if you're working in person and have a remote team member or something like that, right? Which complicates it.
Yeah. What's the single something spoils the something?
One bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yeah, whatever. Something about soup and broth. I don't know.
But like, if you're thinking about the experience, right? Well, like in whatever brought you to this question, can you think of specific examples of things that you think aren't working or where you feel like a solution is very obviously needed?
Yeah, like one of the biggest ones where in a moment, maybe I can come up with one for each. But the in a moment context of like a specific meeting where you have hybrid, as in there are some people in person and then there are some people remote. I've seen, the challenges of that beautiful in-person thing that happens where it's like, ha ha ha, there's like little chatter and a joke is happening and everyone in the room is synced up on it. And virtually, either there's an audio issue or, there's like a lag issue or there's something where because of the way that works, you can't hear, like in one big room, is simultaneously the group conversation and the micro conversations that can sort of chain reaction. But you're on the receiving end, if you're virtual, you cannot keep track of both of those at the same time in the same way. And then you're like, I can see you guys are laughing, but I don't know what you're laughing about. And now I feel weird and left out. And also somehow I am a giant face on a screen and I have a strangely sort of dominating presence visually and yet feel like I cannot equally participate. I feel like the capturing the really intricate nuances of that social behavior across formats is so challenging.
Yeah.
I would also say that's for the in a moment. I would say over the week, it's fascinating how like there's just a direct trade-off between empowering individual flexibility and fundamentally not syncing up the people who maybe want to be meeting together and just like getting the value of being in person, right? It's like, I came in today, but then you had a doctor's appointment, which makes so much sense. But now you're just staying home because it would have taken too long to commute. And here we are working, me in person and you remote, but effectively that makes us both remote again. Right? So I think there's both this combination of practical and sort of like social type frictions that we haven't quite solved for.
Yeah, the negotiation, right? Like I think you're right that like overemphasis on individual flexibility, I don't know if inherently or just in the ways we're talking about results in organizational inflexibility, right? Like the organization becomes more rigid as a result of it.
Right. Well, and from like the individual side, I'm just realizing now, like both of the examples that I'm giving are just a tug of war where one side has to win. Like in the in a moment example of the meeting, IRL wins because it's just, you just can't beat that social fabric in the room. And that like, even if it comes at the expense of the virtual remote experience. Meanwhile, if there's this practical passing of ships in the night that happens in the office, now remote wins because it actually like converts you into remote as soon as you're not all together. And so it's sort of like that tug of war on the individual level, regardless of any good intention or whatever the intention at the organizational level. It's like the compromise doesn't really end up working.
Yeah. I mean, the microphone thing is like so real. I think about this all the time. Like, why are microphones, as a non like electrical engineer or computer scientist, I'm like, why is this so bad? Right? Like
super hard problem.
Yeah. If you have an open to the room speaker and microphone, then having the mic and the speaker on at the same time is a challenge. But if you're using headphones, then having the mic and the speaker open at the same time maybe isn't, and so
and I mean it's like it's not just a challenging sound problem, right? Because all that communication that happens in person, like it's the same reason why it's so different when you can see someone's face and like you can see also their body language and their facial expressions that get completely zoomed out when you have one big conference cam that is not able to show you that detail. It's why I've been part of plenty of meetings where people join from their own laptop screen in a room separately, even though you're in the same place, so that you can provide that degree of visual signal to the people who are remote, right? Which is just like, man, like that. It's a multi-sensory challenge.
Yeah, I mean, beyond to the sort of sensory dynamic of like, we don't get to upgrade our like sensory or brain apparatus as a result of new conditions. There's a component to that is like very much a social dynamic of that being remote enables that being in person prevents to a certain degree. So I saw this researcher at Stanford put out stuff this week. His name is Yegor Denisov Blanche. I don't know if I pronounced Yegor right. Yegor. He and his other collaborators put out this study that 9.5% of software engineers are ghosts, is how they described it. So like within these big companies specifically, like 9.5% of the engineers are doing nothing or next to nothing. And they've been able to do it. They've been able to study it like based on their Git repos and things like that, of seeing like they changed like a line of code in a week. But this remote work situation enables people to do like software jigglers. There's been conversations about like being overemployed, all of these other things. Now, I bring this up not because, you know, like taking sort of like the company side, like you're taking from the company. I bring it up because it doesn't just impact the company. It impacts everyone else who's working with the people who are taking, right? If a company has to perform X number of tasks, they hire X number or, you know, Y number of employees to be able to perform said task. But Y minus 9.5% is actually the employee number that you have. You have to make up that delta. And so that situation, while like theoretically, right, like let's just do a counterfactual for a moment. Remote work worked perfectly except for this problem. If this was the only problem that was facing it, you would still kind of have to either be drawn towards this or come up with new solutions. And it falls just into like, in my mind, it's just like the givers and takers type of exercise, because that cost winds up showing up somewhere. It shows up in team labor, like emotional labor cost of having to make up for it. It shows up in that company has to employ 9.5% extra people. So an end consumer is going to take on that cost that the company is taking on and what they have to pay for things and so on. And so there's like an interesting dynamic where like fully remote work, it potentially enables, based on the set of solutions we have today, the ability for people to be like the takers to take more.
Wait, so you're not blaming these specific software engineers for like not spending enough time fixing hybrid tooling, right?
No.
You're more talking about like, if we had to pick and compromise between who should win in a remote and in-person tug of war, like fully remote work may sort of like give an unfair advantage to takers. Mm-hmm. And that dynamic that largely still impacts like maybe why a hybrid or a lean towards in person. If you had to skew like who should ultimately win, like those two are better solutions for like the system to function. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The idea of like, if you have to go in to work, you makes it real hard to work at two jobs, right? Like it makes it a lot harder to work at two jobs and do nothing and ride it out until you get fired at multiple jobs. And there is like I don't know how many people are actually doing the like multiple employment or whatever, but there is like some set of people, and this study is how it's constructed says 9.5% of people are doing almost exactly nothing within the software engineering space. So it's very specific, but like that you wind up in this place where it's like, oh wait, well then the other software engineers, if they're trying to keep getting paid, have to do the additional work, right? And that part is challenging too. And there could be like fully digital solutions or some like other thing, but like right now that's happening.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe what I'm hearing you suggest is that maybe we're in this time where there has been a slowing or a comfort around, how like what the state of hybrid is, and if anything, maybe a skew towards advancing remote tooling, letting them with the tug of war, and how do we better support remote work, which was sort of the immediate remit starting in 2020. But actually now we might be in a more sort of surreptitious, urgent state where innovations should skew more hybrid, if not in person, than they have, as sort of a response to this overemphasis on remote that we're starting to see the side effects from.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Like everyone reacted because of like whatever big tech PMs doing poolside videos, but like the reality is like it was like a little bit of like a red herring because it was happening in the engineering department. They just didn't happen to be putting like TikTok videos poolside, I think that was a good wrap up, maybe.
Wrap up corner is like Joey thinks that remote is lame and in person is cool. Remote is out and in person is in. And hybrid is also in.
The Goldilocks zone seems to be hybrid. Like there are studies saying like 5 days doesn't get you more than 3 days, but 0 days is you're losing something. And so it's like, oh, okay, great. Cool. You figured it out. Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by Tug of War's Tuggin' Choo Choo. Oh.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and game master, Jess Vander.
Thank you so much. And we'd like to thank our sound engineer and king of the microphones, Alex Contel.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator and dude on the ones and twos, Les Jacobs.
And thanks to our production crew and sublime negotiators, Sarah Gilbert, Nara Mestridge, Chrissy Jensen, and Amy Waters.
And as always, thanks, Len.
Thanks.
Special thanks to tablets.
Hugs.
Hugs? Or tugs?
There's no great hybrid hug form, but it's pretty good.
No hybrid hug. You know what was gonna like the solution is gonna be something like the Meta Ray-Ban glasses situation.
Oh, are we sure? That's the question I pose to you, dear listener.
Not what I want, but what might be the reality.
That is an attempt. Like we would be remiss to not say like that is, or we would be remiss to not say. Did I double negative myself? Whatever. Something.
Remiss.
They're trying.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of thanks. Thanks to donuts. That's it.
Yeah. But like no thanks to bad donuts because what a waste. Like only good donuts. But good donuts though? Good donuts? Wow.
I will say, like the idea like pizza, there's only good pizza. It's like even bad pizza, you're still getting to eat pizza. Like that good idea. Like donuts are close to that, but they're not quite there. Like there is like
I would say that is a very contentious take that you are proposing right there.
I mean, I love like the boxed Entenmann donuts. Those like
the cake ones, like the powdery.
I like the chocolate covered ones,
like the shell-ish.
Yeah, it has like a little chocolate shell around it. Yeah. I will.
Not
I
dry?
will go to town on a box of those.
Really?
Yeah.
This is a really shocking twist. I don't know.
They have a different experiential quality to them.
Yeah, right. It's almost barely even a donut. It's a different category of donut, really.
Breakfast
it's
cake.
Like verging on round cake.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Love you. Mean it. Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye. Oh, a donut is a Taurus.
A donut is a Taurus.
Oh, leave it there. Yep. Leave it at that, folks.
Leave it at that. See you.